What if the secret to dissolving your anxiety wasn't to fight it, but to feed it? What does it actually mean to feed your demons? It sounds like the absolute last thing you should ever do, doesn't it? Part 1. For so many of us, our inner life feels like a constant, draining battlefield. We all have a demon, a name we give to our most persistent and painful inner struggles. Maybe your demon is the demon of anxiety, the one that relentlessly whispers, "What if?" throughout your day, stealing your peace. Maybe it's the demon of self-doubt, the inner critic that tells you you're not smart enough, not successful enough, not good enough. Or perhaps it's the demon of anger, a hot, reactive force that hijacks your rational mind and damages your relationships. And for our entire lives, we are taught one strategy to deal with them. We fight. We try to starve them with logic, ignore them with distraction, push them down with willpower, numb them with food or alcohol or endless scrolling. We spend years, sometimes decades, locked in this exhausting, brutal civil war, and yet, the demon never seems to truly go away. If anything, it just gets stronger. This ancient wisdom, drawn from the heart of Tibetan Buddhism, suggests a completely radical and different approach. It asks us to do the unthinkable, to put down our weapons. Today, in the first part of our three-part journey, we are going to explore exactly why our lifelong war against our inner demons is not just ineffective, but is actually the very thing that keeps them alive. We will lay the foundation for a new, more compassionate, and far more effective strategy. To begin, we need to completely reframe what we mean by a demon. In this tradition, a demon, or Mara in a broader sense, is not an external evil spirit waiting to possess you. A demon is defined as anything that obstructs your inner freedom. That's it. So, a demon can be a recurring pattern of thought. It can be a difficult emotion. It can be a chronic illness or an addiction. It is any force within you that feels like it has you in its grip, draining your energy and limiting your life. The second key concept is aversion, or devesha in Sanskrit. Aversion is that immediate, gut-level reaction of pushing away, hating, or resisting an experience we've labeled as bad. This aversion is the energy of fighting. The great psychological truth that many traditions have discovered is simple. What you resist persists. Imagine you're at a pool, and you're trying to hold a big, inflatable beach ball underwater. It takes an immense amount of effort to hold it down. Your muscles are tense, you're focused, you're straining, and the more you push it down, the more buoyant and powerful it becomes, waiting for the moment your attention slips. And when it does, the ball doesn't just gently float to the surface, it erupts, flying into the air with a force far greater than it had before. Your anxiety is that beach ball. Your self-doubt is that beach ball. For years you've been spending all your energy trying to hold it down, and you wonder why you're so exhausted and why it keeps erupting at the worst possible moments. This leads us to a clear, logical conclusion about why our strategy fails. When we feel a demon like anxiety arise, our conditioned instinct is aversion. We think, "This is bad. I need to get rid of it." This act of fighting, however, paradoxically pours our precious energy and attention into the very thing we're trying to eliminate. By focusing on our anxiety with hostility, we are essentially feeding it, but with the junk food of our resistance. We are strengthening it as an enemy. The demon, which is fundamentally a part of our own mind, feels attacked, and so it fights back. The anxiety about being anxious gets stronger. The anger at our own anger intensifies. We create a vicious feedback loop of internal conflict. This is why, after years of fighting your anxiety, it's still there. The strategy itself is flawed from the ground up. The war is unwinnable because you are fighting a part of yourself. To win would mean a part of you has to lose. The Buddha himself famously demonstrated an alternative. As he sat under the Bodhi tree on the verge of enlightenment, the demon king Mara attacked him with armies of fear, with visions of sensual pleasure, with every doubt and insecurity imaginable. The Buddha didn't raise a sword. He didn't fight back. He simply acknowledged Mara's presence with calm, steady awareness. He met aggression not with aggression, but with spacious, unshakable peace. This profound act of non-resistance is what disarmed Mara and allowed the Buddha to become free. Now, a common and very valid question arises. So I should just let my anxiety run my life? If I stop fighting it, won't it just take over completely? This is a crucial point. We are not talking about passive resignation or letting the demon do whatever it wants. That would be surrender in the sense of defeat. We are talking about something far more powerful, a strategic and compassionate disengagement from the fight. It's about having the courage to put down the weapons so that for the first time we can start a real conversation. So what does this mean for you in your life? Think about your own primary demon. Let's say it's that demon of self-doubt. You've probably spent years arguing with it, trying to prove it wrong, telling it to shut up. But has it ever really gone away for good? What if all that fighting just made its voice louder and its presence more solid? What if, instead of trying to silence it, you could actually learn something from it? Let's try a very simple practice this week. It's an acknowledging practice. The next time your particular demon shows up, that familiar feeling of anxiety, that critical inner voice, I want you to try something radically new. Instead of your usual strategy of fighting it, distracting yourself, or spiraling with it, just pause. Take 3 slow, conscious breaths. And in the privacy of your own mind, simply and gently acknowledge its presence. You could say, self-doubt, I see you are here again. Or, hello anxiety, I feel you in my chest. That's it. No fighting, no agreeing, no fixing. Just a simple neutral acknowledgement. You are just noticing the beach ball instead of immediately shoving it underwater. Just see what happens when you stop the fight. So, as we have seen today, the very strategy of waging war on our inner demons is the one that gives them their power and drains us of ours. We are locked in a painful, exhausting battle against ourselves, a battle that only creates more suffering. The most courageous act isn't to grit your teeth and fight harder. It is to be willing to stop, to put down the sword, to turn around, and to finally face the very thing you have been running from your whole life. In part 2 of our journey, we will take that courageous step. We will learn the ancient, step-by-step, method of not just facing but actually feeding our demons, and discover the incredible alchemy that can begin to transform our greatest fears into our most powerful allies. Part 2. In the first part of our journey, we came to a radical conclusion. Our lifelong strategy of fighting our inner demons, our anxiety, our anger, our self-doubt, is precisely what keeps them strong and keeps us stuck. We saw that what we resist persists. This, of course, leads to the pivotal question. If fighting doesn't work, what is the alternative? How exactly do you feed a demon like chronic anxiety? What does that even mean? The very idea can feel strange, even terrifying. It goes against every instinct for self-preservation we have. It feels like unlocking the door and inviting the monster you've been hiding from right into your living room for dinner. It seems like the height of insanity. But what if that monster was never a monster at all? What if it was a neglected, starving part of ourselves, crying out for attention in the only way it knew how? Today we are going to walk through this ancient and transformative practice together. We'll explore its fascinating origins in the story of a rebellious and brilliant female Tibetan yogi, and then I will guide you, conversationally, step by step, through the 5 stages of the feeding your demons process, a profound method you can use for any difficult emotion or inner obstacle you face. This practice has its roots in the 11th century with a visionary Tibetan woman named Machig Labdrön. She was a mother, a teacher, and a true innovator. In a time and culture dominated by men, she developed a powerful set of practices called chod, which means to cut through. What she was cutting through was the ego's mistaken belief that our Demons are solid, external, and out to get us. She taught that all gods and all demons are projections of our own mind. They are our own energy, configured in different ways. The practice she developed was a radical act of compassion. Instead of fighting these energies, she taught her students to offer them what they truly needed. So when we say feed, we don't mean indulging a bad habit. We mean offering the demon the nourishment it is craving. It is an act of profound generosity and curiosity towards a part of ourselves that we have alienated and starved for decades. Imagine a hungry, angry stray dog that has been showing up at your door. For years you've tried to scare it away by yelling at it and throwing rocks, but it only gets more aggressive and desperate. The practice of feeding is to finally stop, put out a bowl of food, and see what happens when its fundamental need is met. So, let's explore how this is done. I'll guide you through the 5 steps. I invite you to just listen for now, and later you can try this on your own in a quiet space. The first step is to find the demon in your body. You would start by closing your eyes and thinking of a particular demon you want to work with. Let's use the demon of anxiety as our example. You would ask yourself, where do I feel this anxiety most strongly in my body? Maybe it's a tightness in your chest, a knot in your stomach, a tension in your shoulders. You would focus on that physical sensation and allow it to intensify, giving it a color, a texture, and a shape. The second step is to personify the demon and ask what it needs. You would imagine this energy in your body, leaving you and taking a form in front of you, as a living being. It can look like anything: a monster, an animal, a person, even an abstract shape. You just allow the image to arise without judgment. You notice its size, its surface, its character, and especially the look in its eyes. Now, you begin the dialogue. You ask this being 3 crucial questions. First, what do you want? Second, what do you really need? And third, how will you feel if you get what you really need? These questions cut right to the heart of the matter. The third step is to become the demon. This is a powerful step in building empathy. For a moment, you imagine switching places with the being in front of you. You imagine you are the demon. You feel its body, its posture, its emotions, and from its perspective, you answer those same 3 questions. What I want is, what I really need is, if I get what I need, I will feel. The fourth step is the central act. Feed the demon. You come back into your own body, sitting across from the being. You look at it with compassion, now understanding its deepest need. Let's say your anxiety demon told you it really needs to feel safe. You then imagine that your own body dissolves into an infinite nectar of pure, unconditional safety. This luminous, warm nectar flows from you and completely nourishes the demon. You feed it, holding nothing back until it is completely, utterly satisfied. And then you simply watch what happens. Often the demon's form will change. It can soften, shrink, or even transform into something else entirely. An ally. Once the transformation is complete, you can ask this new being, this ally, how will you help me in my life? What is your promise to me? How can I access you when I need you? The fifth and final step is to rest in awareness. You imagine the ally dissolves into light and merges with you, integrating its energy into your own. Then you allow your own sense of self to dissolve as well, and you simply rest in a state of open, spacious, peaceful awareness for a few moments before gently opening your eyes. This process is a profound journey from conflict to conversation, and from fear to friendship. Your demon of anxiety, which just wanted to feel safe, might transform into a powerful ally, a calm and steady guardian. The promise of this guardian might be to remind you of your own inner strength and resilience. So the next time you feel a flicker of anxiety, instead of being hijacked by a faceless dread, you now have a new resource. You can consciously call on the feeling and presence of this guardian ally. The practice I've just described is the one I invite you to try. Please, start with a smaller, more manageable demon. Perhaps the demon of procrastination or minor irritation rather than your biggest life trauma. Find a quiet time, get a journal, and write down the answers to the questions. See what happens when you decide to meet your own inner world with radical curiosity and generosity instead of fear and aggression. So, in summary, the Feeding Your Demons practice is a structured and deeply compassionate method for entering into a dialogue with the parts of ourselves we have fought and rejected. By finding the demon, personifying it, asking what it truly needs, and then nourishing it with that quality, we begin a profound process of inner alchemy. Your demons are not your enemies. They are the lost, wounded, and starving parts of your own magnificent psyche. They are often messengers, carrying the very wisdom and energy you need to become whole. All they have ever asked is that you stop fighting and finally start listening. In our final part, we will explore the profound, long-term implications of this practice. What does a life actually look like when your inner battlefield has been transformed into a council of wise and trusted allies? Join us to find out. Part 3. In our journey so far, we have taken a radical turn in how we approach our inner lives. In Part 1, we saw why the war against our inner demons is unwinnable. In Part 2, we learned the revolutionary step-by-step method of feeding those demons, transforming them from adversaries into allies through compassion. This leads us to the final and perhaps most important stage of our exploration. What happens next? You've had the conversation. You've fed the demon. Does it just vanish forever? What does it mean to live a life where your former enemies are now your trusted friends? This is a crucial question, because anyone who has had a powerful meditative or therapeutic experience knows that the initial afterglow can fade. A week later, you're in a stressful situation, and that old familiar feeling of anxiety or anger starts to creep back in. A part of you might think, did I do it wrong? Did it not work? The demon is back. This is not a sign of failure. It is a sign that the next phase of the work is beginning, the phase of integration. The goal of this practice is not the elimination or annihilation of parts of ourselves. That was the old strategy of war. The goal is the integration of all parts of ourselves into a wiser, more compassionate whole. This aligns with the great Buddhist principle of the middle way, avoiding the extremes. The extreme of fighting and suppressing is one side. The extreme of passively letting the demon run, your life, is the other. The middle way is the path of conscious, compassionate relationship. The core concept here is energy transformation. You are not destroying the demon, you are liberating its energy. The raw, stuck, painful energy of your fear, when met with compassion, is transformed into the clear, helpful, and wise energy of an ally. The best metaphor for this is alchemy. The ancient alchemists sought to transform lead into gold. They didn't try to get rid of the lead. They knew it was the essential base material. Your demon is the lead. It's dense, heavy, and seemingly worthless. The feeding practice is the alchemical process that transforms that base material into gold, into a precious ally. The energy is the same, just in a different form. Another way to think of it is like signing a peace treaty after a long war. The fighting has stopped, which is a huge relief. But now comes the ongoing work of learning to live and work with the former adversary. This requires communication, trust building, and a new way of relating. This leads us to a clear understanding of the process. Your demon, as we discovered, represents a part of your psyche that holds a deep, unmet need. The need to be safe, to be seen, to be in control, to be loved. For years, this need went unheard and unnurtured, and so its energy became distorted, painful, and disruptive. It became a demon. The feeding practice is the first time this part of you has its core need met. When that happens, the distorted energy can finally relax and reveal its true, helpful nature. which is the ally. So, the ally is simply the healthy, integrated expression of the very same energy that was previously locked in the demon. The frantic, chaotic energy of anxiety, once it feels safe, transforms into the calm, watchful energy of an ally of foresight and preparedness. The explosive, destructive energy of anger, once it feels heard and respected, transforms into the clear, sharp energy of an ally of healthy boundaries and justice. Living with your allies, therefore, means consciously and intentionally building a relationship with these transformed parts of yourself. This is a good moment to address a common question. What if my demon doesn't transform into a clear ally? What if it just seems scary or confusing? This is perfectly normal. Sometimes a demon is very old and has been starved for a very long time. It might take several feedings before it feels safe enough to transform. The key is not to judge the process or demand a specific outcome. The revolutionary act is your willingness to meet this part of yourself with compassion again and again. That is the practice. And it's also important to say that if you are working with deep-seated trauma, this practice is most safely and effectively done with the support of a qualified therapist or guide. So what does this look like in your actual life? Let's return to our example of the fear of public speaking. You fed your demon of fear, who told you it deeply needed to be seen and heard safely. It then transformed into an ally that looked like a wise and confident version of yourself. Now, the next time you have to give a presentation, your approach is completely different. You don't just try to crush your fear. Instead, you take a quiet moment beforehand to consciously invoke the feeling and presence of that wise ally. You might ask it for its support. You might visualize it standing with you. You are no longer trying to amputate a part of yourself before you go on stage. You are now calling on a stronger, wiser part of yourself to come forward and help. A powerful practice to support this integration is to keep an ally journal. Get a small notebook. Every time you do the feeding practice, write down a description of the ally that appeared. What did it look like? What was its name? And most importantly, what was its promise to you? Then, as you go through your weeks, make a note of situations where you successfully called on that ally, or situations where you forgot but could have used its help. This act of writing and reflection builds the neural pathways. It strengthens the connection and reminds you, day by day, that you have these powerful, wise, and compassionate resources available within you at all times. So, in closing our three-part journey, we can see that the true goal of feeding our demons is not to get rid of them. It is to welcome them back home, to integrate their locked-up energy into our lives in a healthy and helpful form. The entire process is a profound movement from a chaotic inner battlefield to a peaceful inner council of wise allies. The most inspiring takeaway is this: your anxiety, your fear, your sadness, your anger. These are not curses. They are not evidence that you are flawed or broken. They are simply locked up parts of your own life force. They are your power, your wisdom, and your compassion, waiting in disguise for you to turn towards them. The journey of a peaceful life is not about becoming someone who has no demons. It is about becoming someone who is no longer afraid of their own. What demon in your life might you now be willing to have a new conversation with? Please share your thoughts and reflections in the comments below. Thank you for taking this profound journey with us. If this series has offered you a new perspective, please don't forget to like and subscribe to Buddhism Wisdom, spirituality for more explorations into the art of a peaceful mind.